And welcome to Spock Rock After Dark. Wish I could do an impression, but I really After Dark. Anyways, I can't really do impressions, so worry not. What exactly is this show going to be? Well, once a month on my online radio station, Spock Rock Radio, I do a show that's a mix of podcast and music called Spock Rock After Dark, where I will talk about something of the podcast variety, some kind of talk thing, then play a song, rinse and repeat. And people that watch it live can enjoy not only some great music, but they can also hear some podcast fodder as well. Now, unfortunately, because I don't want to get sued, when I finish the show and make it an actual podcast, I have to cut out the music because, like I said, I don't want to get sued. And yeah, people seem to love that. So I don't want to stop doing that. So I'm going to continue to do that on Spock Rock Radio. But if you know my online footprint at all, I've been doing a standard podcast for the past 8+ years called To Boldly Pod. And I've done over 400 episodes of that. And I really love doing the podcast. And I've built up a decent audience doing that podcast since 2017. And I've got to the point in that podcast here in 2025 that, what is it right now? It's March 23rd. I don't have to sit down and record another episode of To Boldly Pod until the middle of May. That's how far ahead I am in production. But I have so much that I want to come on here and talk about. And I know I have this format that I sort of started last year as far as video goes with the To Boldly Pod expedited review thing. And that was predominantly about football, college and pro football. And it will continue to be that once football season starts back up. But why let this channel just sit here and do nothing over the ensuing 9 months of the year? I could come on here and do a Spock Rock After Dark video version. So I think that's what's going to happen. And how I do it is, if you've listened to Boldly Pod or even Spock Rock After Dark on Spock Rock Radio, cheap plug, I don't do anything with a script. I make kind of little outlines of things that I want to talk about so I keep myself on track. And if you've listened to Do Boldly Pod enough, you know I still tend to get sidetracked by, hey, something shiny. But I always end up circling back to the subject matter that I'm talking about. And like I said, I've built up a decent audience with that format. So why should I change it? So, how do I do Spock Rock After Dark? It's kind of the same as To Boldly Pod, but a little bit different. I kind of mix two things together with Spock Rock After Dark. It's podcast fodder as far as the paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, sports, things happening in the world today, just whatever your standard little podcast fodder is. Movies, TV shows, etc., etc., etc. I talk about those, but then I also take like some odd headlines and try to give a little humor to people's listening and viewing experiences. Sort of make it into a little bit of a talk show, if you will. I don't get too political with stuff, and I don't get overly opinionated, even though we all have opinions on everything. So that's kind of what I do with it. And I think it's been fun. I've had good reaction to it. People watch it and seem to enjoy it, or listen to it and seem to enjoy it. So I thought, you know what? When I'm not doing the once a month show on Spock Rock Radio, why don't I do a video podcast here on YouTube and TikTok and Reels for people to watch? I'll still do the audio version, and those weeks that I'm not doing it, then I can come on here and do a video version. So stay tuned for Spock Rock After Dark, which will probably be conjoined with To Boldly Pod expedited review once football season starts back up. Maybe I'll blend the two together when that time comes, but I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get to that end zone. Boy, I just kind of messed up a couple of metaphors, didn't I? So that's what we're going to do. Sounds like a fun idea. Don't expect a lot of top notch production value. Those of you that listen to Spock Rock Radio, those of you that listen to Boldly Pod, you know my production values are kind of wing everything. So you're going to hear me say a lot. Sorry, that was a production error. And yeah, get used to it. It's part of the allure of what I like to do. So, coming soon, maybe next week, who knows? I know how my brain works. I'm not going to let myself rest until I have an entire show ready. But coming to you probably every Friday, a brand new episode of Spock Rock After Dark. So follow, comment. I love interaction. Don't like necessarily talking to people, but hey, you know what? I might do that. I might have people on here every once in a while as a guest to sort of pimp what they're doing. Because, I mean, look at me. I'm definitely pimp worthy, aren't I? Pimping ain't easy. So join me on YouTube. Just seek out Spock Rock After Dark, To Boldly Pod expedited review. Follow and subscribe to Spock Rock After Dark. And I'm trying to do an impression again, and I suck at those. So hopefully you'll enjoy it. I look forward to hearing from all of you. And as I say in my closer, nothing good ever happens until after dark.